concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna
What's going on, you guys? Oh, you don't say. Bubby FPV says, this is some dang good flying. I kind of think it is too. That's why I put it here. I'm going to let this play out. I feel like this was a really good flying. Let's just keep watching it. People who listen to this on the podcast are just going to be like, what's he talking about? They can't watch it. Apologize for the audio mix. OBS 26 has a new way of managing media sources. Oh, there we go. Hang on, he ain't done yet. And I didn't balance the audio right. I couldn't hear the audio in my headphones, but oh, there you go. You hear them piggies? You know, piggies. He's still up. And now that's it. That's the end of the flight. Oh, that was a good flight. Yeah, Tyler Harris FPV. There is a podcast, indeed. There's a podcast. It's this right here. I upload the audio as a podcast for people who aren't able to watch it live and who want to. Is somebody still doing the politics stuff? No politics in the live stream. Make sure nobody's the FPV, the fence gap isn't in the FPV map. Sad face. I asked them about that today. I asked Liftoff, Kevin Helterman, the Liftoff guy. Okay, that's it. You're fired. You're fired forever. Hide user on this channel. That's it. He's just gone. I mean, one chance, just in case you were just so oblivious that you didn't know that was inappropriate. But then the second time you do it, you're just fired forever. You're just never going to come back on my channel ever again. Oh, yeah. So yeah, welcome to the live stream, everybody. It is available as a podcast to my patrons. I upload the. Ooh, I still have to upload the audio from yesterday. Oops. I upload the audio to Patreon, and yeah. This was me flying. He's not here tonight. He was here yesterday. I am so impressed with this build. I really am. This is the Halo RC Orion frame with Caddx Vista in my mission to find a lightweight frame, and it's coming along well. Now this is about 710 grams with a 200 gram battery on it and a Halo 7 Osiris. What did I say? Orion, Halo RC Osiris. What is it? Damn it! See, I'm confused because I'm trying to moderate the stream at the same time. Osiris, that's it. Yeah, let's just go right over here. This is the. Oh, god dang it! Oh, I still have the scene set up from yesterday. Oh, there we go. No, still not. I had some guests on yesterday. Oh, there we go. Okay. Halo RC Osiris. This is the frame I'm flying. It's about 100 grams. It is a 5-inch. It's a really cute little frame. It's especially nice if you live in the out of the America, because it's sold out of the UK. So if you're in Europe, it's particularly easy to get. Siati says, I'm mailing you a 610 gram all up weight glide build. It's all yours if you want it. That is incredibly generous, Siati. I wouldn't, I definitely, if I love it, I'll definitely buy it off of you. I definitely wouldn't expect you to give it to me. Now, I posted this to my Instagram this morning. 710 grams with a Hero 7 and a 200 gram battery. So you could get like 180 gram. It's a 6S, 1000 milliamp hour. You could get like a down to 180, maybe 175 grams. So you could get this total weight down around 680 with a Hero 7. And people on my Facebook were like, that's not lightweight. That's heavy. Okay, I mean, it's a scale. It's a scale. It's a you know, 710 is lighter than 800. But, Siati, if you've got one 610 all up with a GoPro? With a GoPro, Siati? Is it 610 with a GoPro? We'll have to see. Gravy Leg's here. Oh, Gravy Leg. Oh, how is old Gravy? Gravy Leg should be a moderator. I was just thinking that. He just doesn't come very often. Where's Gravy Leg? Where are you at, buddy? I can't find his message now. I just need to search for Gravy. Oh, no. Old Gravy Leg is talking about Among Us. Do you guys know... Oh, here, he's a moderator now. Do you guys know Among Us? It's this game that's been blowing up. It's like, if you ever played Mafia or Werewolf, where like one guy is an assassin and the other guys all have to find out who is the assassin without getting killed. Among Us is like that. Botgrinder is putting together a FPV Among Us game, and he invited me to play. I believe it's going to be tomorrow night. I don't actually have many details yet, but I did play some Among Us today to get used to it, and you should probably just pay attention to Botgrinder's social media to find out more about that, because I literally don't know. So, Siati, is it 610? Oh, 610 with a Session 5 is still respectable. Now, I have moved on from the Session 5. I still own one Session 5, but the only way to get Session 5s, you can get a refurb Session 5 for like $400 on Amazon. Forget it. I don't love the Session 5 that much. And you can get Session 5s used on eBay for like $200, but I actually bought one of those a while back, and it was DOA. And I was like, well, that was a waste of money. So I've just accepted the loss of the Session 5. I've moved on to the Hero 7. And people are like, if you had a Session 5, it would be lighter. And I'm like, well, if I had wings, I could fly. It doesn't. I feel like 710 is pretty respectable for a freestyle build. I know you can get it lighter, but it's tricky. Considering many of my freestyle builds are closer to 750, 770, I felt like 710 was quite an accomplishment. It does fly nice. It flies nicer when I take the GoPro off it. So, Session 5s. Are they... Yeah, but what state, Mike Bergman? Session 5s on offer up all day for $100 to $160. What state are they in? I mean, I don't know. I feel like I want to mourn the Session 5 and move on. All of my mounts are Hero 7. Anyway. Now, Travis Simon correctly points out that you can... I don't have a GoPro here. You can remove the battery, and the only risk there is if you eject, you're going to lose your footage. But, well, Gravy Leg, why are you not a moderator? I made you a moderator. You may... Yeah, add moderator. Now he's... Who did I add a moderator to, then? Uh-oh. I got an unintended moderator. What's your recommended 1S Tiny Whoop battery? Asks Maxim L. Yeah, this is, I think, one of the best, if not the best, 1S Tiny Whoop batteries you can get. Newbie Drone Nitro Nectar Gold. The Nitro Nectar Gold does not use the folded cell construction that other 1S batteries do. And I have some test results. My battery testing helper is working on these right now. They sent some. We're going to test them, but anecdotal field testing suggests that these are very, very good. These are very, very good. Roy Hall, my Discord is for my patrons only. Here's the deal with me. I help everybody for free all the time. Ask my wife. Ha ha! So, like, what am I going to give patrons? Well, I give them the Discord. So they get the Discord. I hang out on the Discord, although I feel guilty about that I haven't been hanging out. September's been a weird month. I've kind of been a little hunkered down in September. But be that as it may. I hang out a little on the Discord. I'll still answer your questions. You can email me. You can message me on Facebook. Those are the two best ways to get a hold of me. The Discord's for patrons only. Speaking of the Discord and the patrons, check it out. This is my screen right here. This is what I got going on. Oh, where are the... Oh my god, I'm not in the right channel. Ah, hello patrons over in the live stream. Ooh, look at that. That's a beautiful little workbench you got there, my friend John H. Who else? Ghost Branch FPV. Aloha. He always says aloha, but he lives in Germany. Why does he say aloha? I'm sure there's a good reason. Ghost Branch, always good to see. E and F, Techno Babbler. My office looks smaller from above. Smaller from above. Yeah, I guess it still looks way bigger than it actually is. You know, this is not a gigantic room. But it looks way bigger from this view because those desks just look like they're way far away. Guys, yeah. Break a Leg, thank you for moderating that. Break a Leg appears to have been my accidental moderator, but he's doing a good job. So Break a Leg, you get to stay moderator. But anybody who posts that political stuff again, don't even... That's the second time. Don't even frickin' hide the message. No, oh, it was Break a Leg. Underdog hit him. Break a Leg is not a moderator. Break a Leg is out of here. Oh, how do I fire the user? I can't do it. Oh, you hide him. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, yeah. Okay, what was I doing? Right here. So, here are the patrons over in the Discord. Hello, everybody. Over here is you guys in chat. I'm going to be answering your questions, answering your messages. That's what we do during the live stream. And over here are the super chats. If you want to make sure... I always feel so bad. I feel so bad when I go back and rewatch the stream sometimes. Because I see questions in the chat and I'm like, oh, what a good question. I wish I'd gotten to that. But there's just no way to answer all of them because they come by too fast. So if you want to make sure I get to your question, leave a super chat just like Robocop and Human A here. Hit the $ right down here. And that is how to do it. But, so, let's get to the questions. Are Nitro Nectars worth the price compared to competing batteries? Well, let's, I mean, when the test results come in, then we'll see. Let's look up what a GNB 300 milliamp hour. Why does Newbie Drone sell GNB if they're okay? I guess so. New GNB 300 milliamp hour high volt, $18 for a 6-pack. Newbie Drone $7 for one battery? Is that for real? Okay, that's really expensive. Wow. It's hard. I mean, I guess it depends on how hard you hit your batteries, but it's hard to imagine $18, $19 for 6. Whew. Wow, that's like $3 each. So they're basically double the price. That's a lot. I mean, we'll just have to see how much better they are than the GNBs. We'll just have to see. Yeah, the 550 milliamp hour GNBs may be good, but that's not, Tiny Whoop's not going to run 550. Squishy7 says in the Discord, those batteries aren't even in the same league. Well, they may not be, but the question is, if you get along okay with the GNBs, then you don't need to pay extra for performance that you don't need. On the other hand, if you feel that you are not getting the performance you want, the Nitro Nectar Golds are better. That's what people are saying. Does the price improve? Oh, I see. Hang on. The 20 battery price is $90. They come down to like $5 a piece. $90 divided by 20 is $4.50. Okay, so if you're willing to buy 20 batteries, they cost $4.50 a piece. Whereas the GNBs are closer to $3 a piece. That's more. I mean, you got to spend $90 on Tiny Whoop batteries, but they do come down. Siati knows a thing or two about micros. He says the power is worth it. Logan Wise wants to know my thoughts on the GoPro Hero 9. I talked about the GoPro Hero 9 in my new product roundup with It's Blunty. It's Blunty came on my new product roundup and co-hosted it with me. And we talked about the Hero 9, so keep an eye out for that. We actually talked for like 10 minutes about the Hero 9. But I feel like I have never been a guy who buys the latest GoPro. When the 8 came out, when the 7 came out, I was buying 6s. When the 8 came out, I was buying 7s. And now that the 9 is out, I'm still buying 7s because all my Hero mounts are sized for 7s. And the 8 is a different size. And 7s are $200 if you get them refurbed. They're $200. It's a pretty good price. Maybe a little more than that. I can't remember. I think 6s are about $150. 7s are about $200. And I have one 8, and I can't bring myself to fly it. Also because I don't have a mount for it. So, yeah. So the Hero 9 is it better? I mean, it's better, but it's not better in any way that FPV pilots can appreciate. It has 5K resolution. We don't, unless you're a pro trying to impress a director when you're shooting a commercial, then you don't need that extra resolution, I don't think. The stabilization is better, but a freestyle pilot, a hobbyist, doesn't need that super better stabilization. And it's way, way, way heavier. Nah, 507RC. This guy is a 6. This is one of the Hero 6s that I use for goggle testing. I never fly the Hero 6s that I use for goggle testing because I don't want to damage one and have it throw off the results of the goggles. But I had it sitting around, so I put it up in the ceiling. Hero 9 and Real Steady is buttery as heck. You are 100% right. Personally, I think that stabilization, I don't judge people who use stabilization for their freestyle. Drib was here earlier, not saying anything, just saying. I don't judge those people. Dribs uses Real Steady on some of his edits. And what he said in the past, and I agree, is it just depends on your goal. If your goal is to show off your freestyle technique, don't use stabilization. If your goal is to create areas, a kind of viewing experience, maybe stabilization is there. You don't Real Steady, but you use Hypersmooth, don't you? I don't want to be giving out misinformation. Don't you use Hypersmooth? I swear you use Hypersmooth. If he doesn't use Hypersmooth, then his footage, okay. I did not accuse you of using Real Steady, but I would be even. I'm already impressed with Drib's flying, but I would be even more impressed if he didn't use Hypersmooth now and then. And it's like, It just depends what you're going for. There's no shame in using hypersmooth. I don't think anybody who saw a raw take of Drib's footage would go, oh, suddenly he sucks. No, hypersmooth will not turn a bad pilot into a good pilot, but just a different kind of look. But I feel like the amount of stabilization that you get from the Hero 9, I mean, I don't know. But the thing is, I've never been the guy to buy the latest GoPro. It's so expensive. And as soon as the 9 comes out, the 8 gets cheaper, and the 8's pretty good. So I'm always a generation behind. But the weight of the 9 compared to the 8, compared to the 7. My 7, I keep reaching for it, and it's not here. The 7 weighs 115 grams. The 9 weighs like 160 grams. That is so much freaking weight. That is so much weight. I can't bear to do it. Ghost Branch is right in the Discord. He says 5K resolution before stabilization means you can actually still get 4K after stabilization. That is 100% true. But I'm uploading in 2.7K, so yeah, just don't need it. I don't feel like I need it. Maxim L wants to know the best budget goggles. I mean, it depends on what your budget is. For $100, EV800D or Fat Shark Scout. Fat Shark Recon is good. Skyzone Skyo 2C. I'm looking forward. I've finally gotten tracking information for my Eachine EV300O. I'm looking forward to those. Ghost Branch says, why am I still uploading at 2.7K? It's 2020. 2 reasons, Ghost Branch. And I stand by this. Number 1, nobody is watching in 4K. Do you have, I say this. Obviously, someone out there has a 4K display and they watch in 4K. Nobody watches in 4K, though. Are you watching on your phone? What are you doing? Yeah, let me watch in 4K on this tiny little screen. Okay, good. Even if you're watching in 4K, how much bandwidth do you need to actually have a meaningful 4K stream? Most people, if they have a 4K display, won't be able to watch a 4K stream. So very, very, very little audience, I think, for 4K. I feel like at 2.7K, the increased bit rate that YouTube gives it is actually worth it. You get noticeably better looking images on YouTube, which is my primary target, if you upload in 2.7K. But I've uploaded in 4K and I don't see an improvement. Now that may be more true with the Hero 9, because doesn't it have higher bit rate for 4K? That's the other thing. As far back as like the Hero 7 and certainly the Session, the bit rate in 4K was not good. There you go. Exactly. You get the same bit rate for 4K and 2.7K, so 2.7K ends up having better picture quality. Now, one reason to record in 4K, oh no, I'm not even going to go there. Yeah, I'm not going there. So I just don't feel like at 4K you get worse bit rate, and I feel like for fast motion 2.7K is better. And especially because very few people are actually watching in a way that they can appreciate 4K, I just don't feel like it's worth it. Squishy7 says 150 grams is a non-starter for freestyle builds. I believe it. I agree. All right. The best use I have for the Hero 8 is handheld walk and talk shots. It is a fantastic vloggy camera. The stabilization is so good. It's so good on the Hero 8 that you can just walk and talk and it doesn't even freaking matter. And the 9 with the front screen for framing is going to be even better. So I would buy the 9 as a walk and talk vloggy camera. Ghost Branch, I don't know if it's true. I just read what he said about 4K and 2.7. So, alrighty. Anyway, Hero 9. Let's get a couple of these super chats out of the way. Wait, Sub Bunny, best ND filter for the Runcam 5. My personal opinion is my personal favorite ND filters are Camera Butter. I just happen to have one right here. I think they are the right balance between price and ease of use. Camera Butter sticks onto the front of your lens with a little sticky grommet, little sticky whatever. Not a grommet. What is this thing? Anyway, it sticks onto the front of the lens. And they're only about $10 and are good optical quality. Stan, I record in 2.7K and upload in 2.7K. Most of my actual videos are shot in 1080. Gasket, thank you, Brian Lasmerl. Thank you. Most of my videos are shot in 1080, but flight footage is usually shot in 2.7K. So, and I upload flight videos in 2.7K because YouTube gives them more bandwidth. Okay, let's get some super chats out of the way. Kenny Bradley, starting out, should I go DJI with analog adapter or HDO2? Neither, just go DJI and skip analog entirely. That's the actual answer. Sorry. I mean, that's the short answer. Human A, thank you for $5 Canadian. Has Holybro F7 HD's OSD related issues been addressed? Holybro F7 HD OSD related. I'm not aware of that issue, but so I don't know if it's been addressed. I wasn't aware that there was a PID loop sync. I'm not aware of that issue. You have to tell me more about that issue. Sean K says, how will I fly my whoops on digital? You're right, Sean K. That was the short answer. The longer answer is, if you fly a lot of tiny whoops, you want analog. And DJI with an analog adapter will get it done. But I got to be honest with you. A lot of people who fly DJI just have stopped. They're like, if I can't get DJI on it, I don't want it. So. Swami on PC says, I'm the guy asking for help in your DM. I'm afraid that doesn't narrow it down very much. So let's just keep talking about it in DM, my friend. They have fixed the PID loop issue. What issue is it, 507RC? Is it the issue where you have the OSD, the chip is not there and you have to change the SPI bus thing? Is that the issue? Yeah. Yeah, no, they fixed 507RC. Human A, if it's the issue where you have to go in and change the setting to tell the FC that the max chip isn't there, then that has been fixed. Yes. Yes, that's been fixed. In Betaflight now auto detects that. And actually, one of the side effects is if you plug in USB, but you don't plug in a battery, then your OSD chip doesn't work. Maxime L, it is okay to solder to battery cells like 18650s, but I would not recommend you solder to naked cells like lipo cells. I would not think that's very safe. Robocop FPV, thanks for $5 in the super chat. I learned a $700 lesson today. Ouch, this is going to hurt. Flew my 8-inch quad over my local lake for bragging rights and desynced halfway over. Lost the session 5-2. Never fly over water if you're not 100% sure of your gear or prepared to lose it. Sorry for your loss, Robocop. Human, we got you. Argle Bargle, thanks for $10 Canadian. I have a VTX that shows black and white in my EV200D, but color in my EV800D. Tried it with 2 cameras now, so I figure it's the VTX. Argle Bargle, in general, the VTX doesn't change really anything about the video signal in any meaningful way. I would swap the camera. I mean, I would swap the VTX just to see, but I would be surprised if that fixed it nevertheless. What's happening is that in the video signal, there's a thing called the color burst. And I don't exactly know what the color burst does, but if the display doesn't pick up the color burst, then it can't show color, but it can still show the black and white. So I would think it was the receiver. Yeah, I agree with you. It's Blunty. I would think it was the receiver. Tin Lay, thank you for $10 in the super chat. I got a Rotor Riot Cinewhoop Bind and Fly with the DJI Air unit. After a while, the range has gotten bad. The antennas are connected. What's the best device to test that the antennas work and see how strong the signal is? Tin Lay, that's going to be hard to answer because a proper signal analyzer is in the thousands to tens of thousands of dollars. There are some cheap things out there like the Immersion RC RF power meter. The let's look that up. I believe it's still available for sale some places. The Immersion RC RF power meter can measure the output power. It's not super accurate, but it's only like $70 and can give you a rough ballpark measure of whether your device is outputting the power that you expect it to. For a digital transmitter like the DJI goggles, I'm not sure how accurate it's going to be. I definitely would check the antennas, though. Yep. I definitely would check the antennas. Ghost FPV, thanks for $5. Any updates on the upcoming TBS and Radio Master module? I can say that I have it, and I'm working on a video about how to update your TBS Tango to the new TBS multi-protocol module. But I don't have anything more to say about that. Tinley, the other thing I would going back to the question about the range getting less. It's possible, especially if you're using aftermarket antennas, to twist off the cable inside the DJI goggles. So I would, if you can, try somebody else's goggles, although you may not have anybody near you who can do that. Private Island FPV just found his $700 quad that he lost in the middle of a lake. So we got one guy who lost his quad in the lake and one guy, who found it. Very nice. Do you know when Bitefrost will be available? I don't. Fat Shark made some kind of a statement that it would be available soon. I'm looking forward to getting a working Bitefrost, and so I can test it out. Ghost FPV, thanks for $5. Any updates? Guy already got that. Sorry. Christopher Schuer, thank you for $2. Monkey Shine FPV, thanks for $5. What would cause my tiny whoop to go into a death spin at arming? Monkey Shine, there are 4 main things that would cause that. Number 1, prop on the wrong motor. Clockwise prop on a counterclockwise motor or vice versa. Number 2, motor spinning the wrong direction. The way this would usually go is that you just replaced a motor, but you accidentally put a clockwise motor or a counterclockwise motor on where it shouldn't have been. Number 3, flight controller facing the wrong way. If you took the flight controller and you accidentally installed it 90 degrees to the way it should be, then it would do a death spin. And number 4, motor mapping. But because on a tiny whoop flight controller, the motors are just plugged in, there would be the same flight controller alignment. Those are the main things that'll cause it, Monkey Shine. Thank you, Yeah Boyd, for $5. You're the man now, dog. Here's the latest information about Fat Shark Shark Bite. Thank you to It's Plenty in the Discord for posting this. This is the latest statement that they posted. Oh no, this is the same. I think there's been one more. I think there's one more since this one. This one was from a little while back. I think they made another statement, but I could be wrong. Zero latency HD. That's an ambitious claim. Could be true. Oh, Dustin Gilbertson. Thank you for $5 super chat. Dustin showed me a picture of a tower, an elevator column, and said he was thinking of doing a backwards dive. And I told him if he went for it, I would replace whatever he broke. And fortunately for me, he got kicked out by a cop before he tried more than once, so I'm off the hook. How to fix yaw twitches on slow, straightforward flight, asked Cobra 4829. Yaw twitches are almost always excess vibration, too high of a D-gain, or not enough filtering. Those 3 things. A bad gyro will cause yaw twitches. Basically, what you need to do, inspect your quad for damage. If you have a cracked plate or an off-balance motor or an off-balance prop, all of those things could cause yaw twitches. If we assume that your quadcopter is completely mechanically sound, then your flight controller gyro may be damaged. You could move your filter sliders to the left. That will help. But any quad that I can't run 1.0 filter sliders for sure, I'm really annoyed and I want to just throw the flight controller in the garbage. Brand new build, 7-inch. For 7-inch, you might need to move those filter sliders to the left a little bit just because 7-inch props are a little bit lower RPM than Betaflight's default filtering, try moving the filter sliders down to like 0.8. So, Stan asks in the Discord, is it safe to use my... Oops, sorry. Is it safe to use my RXSR with a missing antenna? It has 2, but I broke one. Not sure, since it also transmits telemetry back to the radio. Stan, you're absolutely right. Any RF transmitter, if operated without an antenna, can be damaged. Now, some transmitters like TBS Crossfire, TBS Unify, and the DJI goggles have protection built in, where in that situation they won't be damaged. But many don't. And most analog video transmitters, if you run them without an antenna, some of them will be damaged instantly, some of them will be safe for a few seconds or a few minutes, they will be damaged eventually. Your receiver, you might think, would be immune to that, because receivers don't have that problem. And in fact, if you get your Fat Shark goggles, which again, they're all the way on the table. If you get your Fat Shark goggles, they're a receiver, it's completely safe to run them with no antennas. But your receiver, like your RXSR, is also a transmitter because it transmits telemetry. And if you run your receiver with no antenna, you will burn out the telemetry transmitter and telemetry won't work anymore. One place you see this is some Crossfire pilots, TBS Crossfire pilots, the racing pilots, they'll run without an antenna at all. That just won't run an antenna. And they're at such short range that it basically works. That burns out the telemetry transmitter on the receiver, but the receiver will still work. Fluffy Dog EFPV wants to know when I'm putting out the September new product roundup. Yes, remember I said September was kind of a weird month? Well, I recorded the new product roundup, and that was a couple days ago. I edited it this morning, and I realized by the time it actually goes out, September will be over. So I think we're just going to call September a wash, and it's going to come out October 1st. The September new product roundup is going to come out in October, and we're just going to call September a wash. That's what we're going to do. Yeah. September was a weird month for me. Stan asks, what if I disable telemetry in Betaflight? No, that won't work. But what you can do, Stan, is when you bind the RXSR, assuming you're binding in ACCST mode, you have the option to choose telemetry on or off. If you bind it with telemetry off, then it will work. If you turn telemetry off in Betaflight, the flight controller stops sending telemetry, but the receiver is still sending telemetry. So bind it with telemetry off, Stan, and you'll be okay. Mouse Rat wants to know, raising the P and D gain slider gives me 5 degrees centigrade MCU temperature per tick, with P and D gain at 1.4, which means getting above 70-ish in P and D, I start getting close to 90-degree temperatures. How is this possible? I mean, it makes sense that raising D gain would raise the temperature. I don't know why it would raise the temperature of the MCU, the processor. It would raise the temperature of the ESC, and maybe that's causing the processor to heat up. Additional D-term noise raises the temperature of the ESC. Since it's a tiny whoop, as the ESCs get hot, maybe the flight controller gets hot. Yeah, I would definitely not want to push the temps past 90C, though. Ghost Branch, I think that Ghost Branch says, I wouldn't have thought the telemetry transmitter would have enough power to hurt it. I think that those transmitters transmit at like 100 milliwatts. I could be wrong. I'm not 100% sure about that. Oh, let's see here. Anthony Pacifico says, I just bought a Mobula 7 V2, Eachine EV800 DM, and a Beta FPV light radio too. What's the first thing I should do? I've been flying a cheap 5-inch drone for a while in stability mode. I mean, Anthony, if you've been flying a 5-inch drone, you should be okay to fly a Mobula 7, right? You should be fine. First thing you should do, I mean, you should start learning in acro mode. That'll really open up your capabilities. Aber the Ham. No, going back further. Hank Lambert, thanks for a $20 super chat. That's a huge super chat. Thank you so much. Thanks for the help with my bricked iFlight flight controller. I reflashed it with the Betaflight F4 target, and I got it back. Oh, that's weird. Are you sure that Betaflight F4 is the right target? Okay, I mean, if it's working, that's all that matters, but... Tyler Harris says, I was at a race this weekend. When I full throttled, my battery sagged to 12-ish volts. I don't think it was the batteries, because it happened with brand new ones, too. Any ideas? If it was cold, the batteries will sag more. Is it cold where you are, Tyler? And it's been warm? That's my first thought. Aber the Ham, thank you for a $2 super chat. Bite Frost versus Shark Bite. What's the difference? Bite Frost was an early beta hardware. Basically, when Fat Shark wasn't ready to release Bite Frost yet, and DJI came out, and Fat Shark crapped their pants, thinking that everybody was going to go DJI and they were going to miss the boat. So they released Bite Frost as a way of saying, "Hey guys, we exist. We're doing a high definition thing." And then Shark Bite is the actual ready to release product, hopefully. Oh, Jose Miguel Soto Villasmil says, I'm super new in this. After testing the quad, I accidentally moved the motor speed in Betaflight and smoke came out of the ESC. Is it dead? Most likely, yes. If smoke comes out of the motor, if a tiny amount of smoke comes out of the motor, sometimes you will not have destroyed the motor. But if smoke comes out of the ESC, it's probably dead. Does SharkBite support the full Betaflight OSD? It does not. It supports a subset of the OSD. Set to Rest, thank you for $5 super chat. What would cause my iFlight HD3 to lock up mid-flight, losing video and transmitter falling out of the sky? I mean, I'm going to guess the air unit lost power. The big thing that I wonder when you have quads falling out of the sky is, do you hear the ESC go doo-doo-doot? Did the whole quad lose power or just the air unit? If you hear the ESC go doo-doo-doot, then you know the whole quad lost power. But if the ESC doesn't do that, then you can assume that the just the air unit lost power. Now, the iFlight HD3 is made to work with the air unit, so it should be able to power it. But maybe you got a bad one. Assuming you're running 4S, then you could try moving the power of the air unit to VBAT. Just move the wire. If you're running 5S or 6S, you can't do that because it'll fry. Glass Pound wants to know, when I do my Flywoo long-range review, can you go into depth about the GPS recovery settings for Betaflight 4.2? I have a GPS recovery tutorial that I made, and I'm not sure if 4.2 has added a bunch of new recovery settings. The truth, I might, because it's going to be right there in front of me. But the truth is that Betaflight's GPS recovery is difficult to trust, because when anything goes wrong, it just drops your quad out of the sky. Which, I guess if the alternative is losing it entirely, that's okay, but I really wish that it did a better job of helping you know whether it was going to work when it triggers, and knowing why it wasn't triggering. The other thing is, if GPS recovery fails, like because it doesn't have enough satellites, when it falls out of the sky, it doesn't make it easy for you to know why it failed. It just fails. So Ryzix wants to know, why would someone solder the VBAT solder points together next to the RX1, TX1 solder points on an Omnibus F4, F3? Ryzix, post a picture of that in the Discord so we know what you're talking about. Omar C wants to know, what does the land option in Betaflight do? You mean in the failsafe tab? The land option puts the throttle at a pre-configured value that you decide, and then puts the quad into auto level mode so it levels out. And the idea is that the quad will slowly land, but it won't. It'll just go to a predetermined throttle for a certain amount of time, and maybe it landed or maybe it didn't. So I'm not a big fan of the land option personally. If you fail safe, I think you should drop the quad. Stan wants to know, how can I solve my beeper beeping like crazy sometimes on USB? I disabled beeping on USB in the Betaflight config, but it was still beeping when I flashed BLHeli last night. Stan, I think your flight controller has a problem, or your beeper is not wired up right. Some flight controllers don't properly detect that you're on USB, but the truth is, if you plug in and it just goes beep constantly, that's a wiring or a flight controller problem. Let's see. TX1, RX1. Where are those pads that he's asking about? There they are. Oh, are you talking about RAM and VBAT? Is that it? Yeah, maybe the question is, on the Omnibus F4, what are the RAM and VBAT pads for? Okay, so RAM on an Omnibus is... Oh, hang on. Let me make sure we're looking at the same thing. I think we are. Yeah, it's RAM. Is it RAM and VBAT? Where's... This is... Oh. This is not an... Oh. This is not the usual layout for an Omnibus. Where's the... I think that's RAM and VBAT. I'm going to answer that question anyway. And then that's what we're going to do. Where's the freaking picture? There it is. So the deal is the camera gets power. The camera and the VTX get powered from the RAM pins. And they are filtered to remove video noise. Okay? And then what voltage is the RAM pin? You bridge either 5 volts or VBAT to RAM. So you bridge this pin to here or this pin to here, and that controls what voltage comes out the RAM pins. That's the way that's supposed to work. Good question. Richard Schwalm. What's the difference between Newbie Drone's B-Brain BLV2 and the Hummingbird F4 Pro? I thought the difference was that one used Silverware and one used Betaflight, but it's not. Jonas Grunder, that's a good suggestion. If your buzzer is buzzing all the time, try going to Betaflight CLI and set beeper _ frequency equals 0. That may... Usually it just makes the beeper be weak if that's not set right, but you could try it. Is the Beta FPV X-Night a good second purchase for a drone after the Emax Tiny Hawk? I am not a big fan of the 5-inch sub 250 category. I understand that there are people who have to do that for legal reasons, but I think if I needed to go sub 250, I would go to 4-inch or 3-inch and get a lot more durability. So the Beta FPV X-Night depends on what prop size you're using, but I would steer away from the 5-inch. The 4-inch may be better. William Trist wants to know, the CL1 budget build from the Rotorite website, can you put a Spectrum receiver on it? Yes, absolutely. You totally can. Dave Grunsill, thank you for $5 in the super chat. Can you change the hover throttle position without changing hardware? Quad 1 hovers at 70%, Quad 2 at 50%. I'd like them to be the same. Okay, first of all, Dave, if you have a quad that hovers at 70%, check your endpoints. That is not... Like, I would be hesitant to fly a quad that hovered at 70% because you wouldn't have enough throttle to respond to really anything. Any quad that hovers at 70%, something like it just doesn't have enough power to weight ratio to exist. So maybe your endpoints are wrong. Check your endpoints, go 1,000 to 2,000. But I would just try to fix that quad. That's something ain't right about that quad. It's too heavy or the motors don't make enough thrust. To answer your question, you can use a throttle curve in the controller to adjust the hover point. I don't recommend that you do that. I really feel that a linear throttle is right for most situations. And just if you have a quad that's super powerful and it hovers at 20%, then especially as a beginner and maybe even as an experienced pilot, you might benefit from doing a throttle curve that lets you have a little more resolution. But if you assume that your hover point is somewhere between, let's say, 30 and 50%, then just learn how to fly with quads at different hover points, because every quad is going to have a slightly different hover point. The weight's going to be different. The props are going to be different. And you just, as you take off, you find the hover point, and then you just know where it is, and you go for it from there. That's just something you do as a pilot. Your quad that hovers at 70%, though, that thing's messed up. It ain't right. That ain't right. Something ain't right. Alan, thank you for a $10 super chat. I put Crossfire on my Tyro 129 and turned on LQ in the OSD. When I flew the quad, it was flashing 00 throughout the flight. What do I need to do to make it work? Update the firmware on your Crossfire module, Alan. You need to be on Betaflight 4.1 or newer, and your Crossfire needs to be, I don't remember the firmware version, but basically update to the latest Crossfire firmware and Betaflight, and it'll work. It's Blunty. Thanks again for the help. The main difference between the Humminbird F4 Pro and the B-Brain Brushless Pro are that the B-Brain Lite has a 100 milliwatt VTX and does 2S. Otherwise, they're very similar. Thank you. It's Blunty. The Humminbird is going to be 1S only and have a lower output power VTX. It's Blunty is going to get promoted to producer, doing all the research in the background. Thank you. It's Blunty. I don't have enough. Oh, I didn't put enough juice in this one. This one's got a little more lemon. Diego Pedro says they're both 25 milliwatts. Are you sure about that, It's Blunty? Matt Dell wants to know what I think of the Diatone Mamba F405 30x30 stack. Matt, if we look on my website, www.fpvknowitall.com, my website has a section with all my product recommendations, and one of those is flight controllers. And in the flight controller section, I list the Mamba Power Tower F405 as the best choice for tight budgets. This thing is, oh, it's out of stock. Is it out of stock forever? That sucks. It's $45 for an F4 flight controller and ESC. It's a stupid value. No matter how bad it is, like, I don't know if it's good or bad, but even if it even works half the time, that's a preposterous price. So I also have the Diatone F722S, which is just so feature packed that it's even got built-in Bluetooth. So, aha, Ciati helping clear it up. The Acrobee, the B-Brain is 100 milliwatt VTX and has the VTX built into the main board. The Humminbird has the receiver on board, but the VTX is external, and you can choose which one you want. I think Diatone overall is solid. Let's get a couple more super chats. I'm falling behind here. Big Oily Guy, thanks for $5 in the super chat. Justin French, thanks for $10. You guys are being super generous today. Thanks for $10 in the super chat. Mamba F405 Mark II instruction insert says for the VTX, 800 milliwatt can be used directly for image transmission. Otherwise, additional BEC power supply is required. What does that mean, and what do I do? Okay. Let's see if we can find an answer. For a $10 super chat, I'll spend a minute looking for an answer. Brumby FPV, Would you recommend the Nazgul, Sidora SL5E, or GEP-RC Mark IV? Damn, that's a good question, Brumby. By the way, I haven't forgotten about you, Justin French. The GEP-RC Mark IV... I liked the GEP-RC Mark IV, but it's way more expensive, if my memory's correct, than the Nazgul or the Sidora SL5E. So I feel like the Sidora SL5E is such a stupidly good value at its $200 price that it's hard to recommend the GEP-RC Mark IV, even though the GEP-RC Mark IV is better in some ways. The other thing is, I can't decide if GEP-RC is still shipping the pinned flight controller and ESCs or not. I heard from someone just a little while ago that they got that pinned flight controller, and I said to GEP-RC, and he said, so back up. I'm sorry, Justin French. Apparently this is going to be a longer answer than I thought. I'll get back to you, Justin. GEP-RC had this flight controller and ESC, and they had stacking pins, and the stacking pins broke, as they always do. GEP-RC said this was a mistake. We fixed that. Well, there were only like a few of them that went out. It were prototypes. We're going to replace. If you got one of them, we'll replace it. So then a few weeks ago, somebody emailed me and he was like, hey, I got this one with the pins in it. I'm like, well, how is that possible? Didn't they say that only a few of them went out? Okay, maybe you were one of the few. So then he contacted customer support and they sent him a new one and it had pins too. And GEP-RC was like, the warehouse effed up. Sorry. I'm like, well, how many of these prototypes did you make? That So the thing is, the GEP-RC Mark IV is good, but it's more expensive. I think I would probably personally spend $200 on the Sidora SL5E or the Nazgul V2. Both of them are quite good. Matt Dell, you do have to be a patron to get the Discord link. No offense. If I were 100% sure that GEP-RC was not shipping the pinned headers anymore, then I would say the GEP-RC Mark IV is pretty good. If you got a little more money to spend, maybe get it instead of the iFlight Sidora. But I'm just not 100% sure I believe that there aren't more of them going out. So, there you go. Getting back to the question about the Diatone F405 Mark II. Can we find a manual for it? 800 milliwatt. I have no freaking idea. Justin French, can you email me a picture of this insert? Like, I just have no context for what's happening here. Huh. I just have no context for that message, my friend. Can you email me a picture of it? I have no idea what that... I also am completely confused about what that might mean. Skadoosh, you're 100% right. GEP-RC makes some decent gear. Keep in mind it's a China company. You can't always take what they say as gold. Well, you can't always take anybody completely at their word. It is very plausible that a manufacturer who gets called out on a design defect in a product would then go, oh, that was a mistake. We fixed it. We're not doing that anymore. And you go, oh, okay, I'm just going to assume you're telling me the truth. And then a month later, somebody's like, hey, I got one of these things that's supposed to be fixed. And you're like, hey, what's the deal? And they're like, the warehouse. What are you going to do about the warehouse? And you're like, oh, okay, I guess. Yeah. Well, Big Data Pimp, that's also how I read it. So Justin French, the way me and Big Data Pimp think that this text is meant to be said is up to an 800 milliwatt VTX, you can run it off the internal BEC. But if you have more than an 800 milliwatt VTX, the internal BEC will not be able to supply the current. I also think that's what it means. So since Big Data Pimp agrees with me, I'm going to go with that, Justin French. But how would they know how much power your VTX is pulling? How would they know? So they got to just be estimating. Basically what they're saying is don't run a big powerful VTX off the 9 volt regulator because the regulator wouldn't be able to handle it. D Reckless wants to know if the air unit fits in the Nazgul or the Sedora. I'm iffy on that. Obviously, the Nazgul V2 is available with an air unit, so it can do it. But I would be skeptical that it would fit in the SL5E. Crazy Sam FPV, thanks for $5 in the super chat. What's a good setup for a 3-inch build or a plug and play out there you'll recommend? I would definitely suggest you check out fpvknowitall.com. I have a whole section on ready to fly drones, including DJI. So definitely check that out. Yeah. Should update some of this soon. Just a constant process of needing to update this and being behind. Archangel says the Nazgul V2 has a Vista air unit, won't fit on either frame. Oh, that's a shame. Yeah, a Vista will fit on either of them. And I got to say, I ran my Vista at 1200 milliwatts today. I've got a Vista on this Osiris build. I ran it at 1200 milliwatts all day, 50 megabits per second, had no problems. So I'm leaning away from the air unit and toward the Vista. A little bit. What's Helicoptrosis, thanks for a $10 super chat. When I update Betaflight, the ports are gone from the tab. Here's the answer for you. You have flashed the wrong target to your flight controller. You have flashed a generic target, such as STM32F405. That target does not complete the configuration of the flight controller. You need to find the correct target for your flight controller and flash that, not the generic target. If you want to know more about that, check out this video. Betaflight STM32, blah, blah, blah. UARTs disappear. Let me paste this in the chat for you there, Helicoptrosis. Let's see here. Does Luminaire Ghost work with the QX7 without the Crossfire mod? Gregory Hurst, if you're doing Immersion RC Ghost, they have fixed the problem with firmware that the Crossfire inverter mod fixes, so you do not need to do a hardware mod. Yeah. Travis Simon, I think you're exaggerating a little bit. Travis Simon says, don't forget, JB promised and staked his entire reputation on the fact we would never have digital FPV. Yeah, that's what I did. I don't think I said that. Pretty sure I didn't say that. Let's see. Oh, we got a picture here. We got a picture of this confusing text. Please, Chinese manufacturers, can all Chinese manufacturers hire one English-speaking person? I'm really on the edge of sounding insensitive. Can you please just pay one English-speaking person like $50 to read your manual? I get it. I've tried to learn foreign languages. I sucked at it. Like, please, just pay to encounter back EMF and ensure the longevity of your electronics. What? Come on. What are we looking at here? No, this is not the image that I thought it was. Just $50. That's all. Be easy. It means put a capacitor on it. That's exactly right. Pat Clevenger, thank you for $5 super chat. When should you adjust the gyro filter for Betaflight 4.2? Pat, The first thing you want to do is get RPM filtering working. Once you have RPM filtering working, the next thing to do is work your filter sliders to the right, both the gyro and the D-term filter slider. Work them to the right until you start to get hot motors, until your motors start to get a little warm maybe. You don't want super hot, but if the motors stay cool, work the filter sliders all the way to the right to 2.0, and that's a good start for a tune. You should also look for signs of flyaway, although you usually will get hot motors first. Signs of flyaway include you raise the throttle and lower the throttle, but the throttle doesn't come down, or the quad kind of just wants to, maybe a kind of a sound when you raise the throttle. Yeah. If you encounter any of those things, stop moving the filter sliders to the right. Basically, you always want to have the least amount of filtering you can get away with while still having good flight characteristics. Less filtering makes the quad fly better right up until the point you smoke your motors and it flies to the moon. So you want to find that sweet spot. Don Erickson, thanks for a $10 super chat. Wrong Way FPV, thanks for a $5 super chat. How far away should my quad be from my TX16S when I do the frequency fine tune? When you do the frequency fine tune, you obviously don't want it to be at like 100% RSSI. So I try to get it down to like 70% RSSI. So however far that takes, then do the frequency fine tune. Tinley, thank you for a $10 super chat. I use the DJI controller. I saw a video of someone modifying the controller to use aftermarket antennas. It involved 3D printing antenna mounts. Would you recommend this? I mean, the whole reason you got DJI is you didn't want to screw around with that nonsense, right? Would I recommend it? The range is already... The thing is, if you increase the range of the controller, you next need to increase the range of the goggles. But there's people out there who are flying 6 kilometers or something. And as far as I know, they're using the stock antennas on the controller. So I'm not sure why you're increasing the range of the controller. I think the controller probably has more range than the goggles. Where does the energy come from? Asks Dan to Q-Man in the Discord. Where does the energy come from when motors get hot? Here's the analogy. Imagine that you have a wheel and it's turning and it's well lubricated. Okay? So it's just sliding, right? And there's no heat buildup. And now imagine that that lubricant is removed. Where does the heat come from? When two things are rubbing against each other and there's no lubrication, where does the heat come from? It comes from friction, right? It comes from the kinetic energy is converted to heat energy. Well, in a motor, we have electrical energy moving through the motor. The ESC pushes current through the motor. That builds up a magnetic field. The magnetic field interacts with the magnets on the bell and the motor spins. Electrical energy is converted into mechanical energy, the spin of the motor. If you push electrical energy through the motor and it cannot be converted into mechanical energy, for example, because the motor is stalled, then it turns into heat. Just like when you rub two surfaces together and there's no lubrication, it turns into heat. So, when you send a high-frequency signal through the motor cannot change speed fast enough because of physics, inertia. Even if the motor is not stalled, there's friction and the motor has inertia, so it can only accelerate so fast. So when you put a high-frequency signal through the motor, you're building up heat because the motor can't change speed fast enough. That's the way it works. That's the analogy I like to use. Mr. Wolf, how many cells does the CL1 budget build built and tuned take? I don't, you have to ask Rotor Riot that, man. I guess I am a cast member. Rotor Riot CL1 budget build kit and built and tuned. I don't know because it's out of stock. Where's the... Built-in tune, $300. Don't you pick the motors? What motor? Hype Train Blaster. Oh no, it's 2450. 2450 kV is 4S. The motor kV is what determines that. When will I fly a racing Octo? We flew a 3-inch Octo on Rotor Riot. That was pretty fun. It was pretty good. What are my go-to props right now, Tyler Harris? How dare you? How dare you? GemFan, I got a signature prop with GemFan. For my motors, for my 2208 motors, JB51477. Thank you, GemFan, for making this prop with me. I'll let you in on a little secret. It's the same 51477 that existed before I put my name on it. I was just looking for good props to use with my... Now, this is true. This is true. I was looking for good props to match with my 2208 motors. And I settled on the GemFan 51477. And I said to RunCam, I really like these props. Would you do a signature version of them in, like, my colors? Because I don't know, I just wanted colored props. And they were like, sure. So now all GemFan 51477s are JB props. Yay. I don't want anybody to think I'm misrepresenting it. Like, there are people out there like Evan Turner, Heads Up FPV. He, like, tests props and he's, you know, he make changes and whatnot. I tried a lot of different props. I didn't do anything in the development of this prop. I just settled on this as this is a really good prop. It fits my flight style and my motors. I really like it, but I would love to get some purple and yellow ones. So, there you go. That's my go-to, at least for my motors. Jan Grudnicki, thank you for $2 Canadian. Can I map the DJI controller thumb wheels in Betaflight? I don't think so. When I've set it up, it only has switches available to map. But I'm not 100% sure. And I'm not going to, like, put my DJI system on to check. So, I don't think so, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Sean Douglas, thanks for a $20 super chat. That's a big super chat. I really appreciate it. Scott Abramachik, thank you for a $10 super chat. On my CL1 build, the RSSI reads different on Fat Shark than on the QX7. It reads 90% on the QX7, 11% on the goggles. That means that your OSD, your RSSI on your flight controller is not set up right, Scott. So how to do it depends on which receiver you've got. But 11% in the Betaflight OSD is a common value for a misconfiguration of the RSSI. If you've got a RXSR controller, then RXSR receiver. If you've got an RXSR receiver, then you need to map it to an aux channel. I've got a video about how to do that. You should email me or DM me on Facebook, Scott, and I will point you to the right video. But the other thing he says, he keeps getting signal low warning on the QX7 over and over. Well, that means that your RSSI is actually low, and that has nothing to do with your flight controller configuration. But how could it be signal low if you're getting 90% on the QX7? Something isn't adding up here, Scott. We need more details. You're going to have to message me directly, DM me. Something doesn't add up here. You shouldn't be getting signal low with 90% RSSI. So if you've got an RXSR, this is the method, Scott, to put RSSI in the OSD. That's a link to my video. It's a little bit dated, but it still works the same. But I'd be concerned about the signal low. Yeah. Is it good point, DJ Pop? Is it reading signal low when you're too close? Sometimes if you get the controller too close to the receiver, you'll get a failsafe. Justin French, thanks for $5 in the super chat. I want to run 1K on the TBS Unify, so how do I work around? I got a Maytech Beck board. Can I hook that directly to the battery leads? Justin French, if you're using the Unify HV, just run it off a VBAT directly. If it's a 5-volt Unify, then you just need a 5-volt regulator that's rated for that wattage. That's what you got to do. Wherever the regulator comes from, though. Mr. Dragon, thank you for a $5 super chat. I copied my Rooster model and changed the name to the Gecko. Both arm at the same time on Crossfire. Crossfire cannot tell which receiver is bound. You cannot have more than one of your Crossfire models plugged in at the same time. You can't do it. With FreeSky, there is a feature called Model Match. And with FreeSky, only the model that you currently have loaded will arm. But Crossfire doesn't support that function. The other thing, Mr. Dragon, even if you were using FreeSky, when you copy the receiver number goes with the model. So if you were using FreeSky, you would need to go into the model setup page and change the receiver number and rebind the other one. But with Crossfire, that function doesn't work. I think it works with the Tango 2. Only the Tango 2 because it has an internal module. Stan says, can you fly 2 Crossfire quads at once? Make a video. Funny you say that. Funny you say that. We already did. We did it as a Rotor Riot video. One pilot flies 2 quads. Oh, it's such a good opening.
Am I? No!
Such a good opening. Oh, did you see that hit?
Am I? No!
Watch this hit. Boom! It's a good opening. We flew. Oh, look there. Look at that guy. Look at that handsome devil. We flew 2 quads at once. Oh, and we visited Horizon Hobby. Where's the 2 quads?
PV and the one that had more went to go up. It went way further back, and then when I
where's the money shot though?
16 seconds to get that far off.
But they were
8
drifting.
seconds, dude. Kill switch in case the other quad is about to do some damage.
Here we go. 2 quads, 1 controller.
How you can be so confident?
Dude, okay. 16 seconds to get that far off.
But they were
8
drifting.
seconds to get that far off.
They were drifting.
I'm not gonna do
So
that.
hard.
What's gonna happen is I'm gonna go whoop, 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 land.
Oh God!
Oh my gosh! Disarm! Oh!
So that's Stingy trying to do a double power loop with 2 quads at once. It didn't go well. Didn't go well. Oh, sorry. Was the audio too loud? Well, what are you going to do? All right. Cool Coyote asks, what do you need to change if you have smart audio working but you can't open the OSD menu? Your endpoints on your controller. Make sure your endpoints are correct. Yeah. John Larson, thank you for $5 in the super chat. What are Kalman filters? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Kalman filter is a advanced kind of filter. If you listen to the proponents of Kalman filters, they'll talk about state estimation and why it's not at all the same as just a low-pass filter. You guys, I don't know. Kalman filters are a better kind of filtering. It's a touchy topic. So let me start by saying that I am not even qualified to comment, but I can tell you from the outside what I've seen. People who know about filtering are really happy with Kalman filters and think they're very good. And then somebody put Kalman filters into, I think it was Betaflight was the first to do it, and was like, Kalman filters are the best. And then there was this giant political drama between people who like Kalman filters and people who think they're dumb. And then Mark Spatz tested and concluded that the implementation of Kalman filters in Betaflight basically just boiled down to a low pass. That's all it was doing, was that no matter what the code said, effectively it was just acting as a low pass. Which made sense because they weren't doing the full Kalman filter, they were doing the fast Kalman filter, and basically it just boiled down to a low pass. But that didn't stop people from saying, oh, Kalman, no, you just don't understand. Listen, man, you don't get it. If you think it's a low, you need to fly it. Forget all that science and data. You just need to open your mind and fly it, man. Here, take this, put this under your tongue. Wait about 30 minutes and then fly it. You'll know what Kalman's about. So, you know, Kalman filters can be very powerful, but I'm not convinced that anyone has actually implemented them in a meaningful way that is different from the low pass that is already in Betaflight. But what do I know? I'm not qualified to comment. MB Edits, thanks for a $10 super chat. Thanks for the newbie drone video. I couldn't help but order an 8-pack of motors. Thank you. Okay. Oh my God, we're caught up on super chats. We're caught up on super chats. What are your go-to props if you were not using my motors? So what's a good generic prop for like a 2306, 2450 kV motor? A lot of people would argue that the Ethics S2 and S3 are a great go-to. No one could disagree with that. Those are fantastic props. The thing that steers me personally away from those props is Mr. Steele likes low-pitch, smooth, linear props. And the trade-off there is that you don't get a ton of thrust. I tend to prefer higher pitch, thrustier props. When I fly the Ethics props, which I have a box of S2, S3, and S4s. I have a box that was sent. I feel bad because I don't fly them very often, but I do fly them sometimes. I like the S4s because they're higher pitch. That's a little more my style. The Gemfan Hurricane 51466 is still a very good all-around prop. Yeah. That's a very good one. The Johnny prop is a good freestyle prop. It's super smooth, but also super low thrust. So I would say maybe the weakness of the Gemfan 51466 is that they are a little, they seem to like break off about a third of the way up. And not like easily, not like all the time, but they seem to lose their tips a little easier than maybe I would like. So 661 FPV says 51477 is a lot of prop, needs a big motor. Exactly. That's why I pair it with my 2208 motor. It's a good prop. Cool Hands 21 in the Discord asks, besides the Zoe 3D props, what other 3D props are on the market? Cool Hands, those are the only ones. Before Zoe came up with those 3D props, she was buying these props. There was like one prop she bought off of freaking AliExpress, and that's basically it. That's the only one. I mean, it's not like literally the only one, but that's the one you should be using. What's the safest way to shield RF noise to the GPS from the Caddx camera? Kapton tape and foil? Oof. Oh, wow. Yeah, so there is, Brian Pearson, there is some foil tape that you can put over electronics to try to shield them. The problem is if you're not careful, you can short it out, and if it's not grounded, it's limited effectiveness. Have I flown the Nepal props? I actually have, Everyday FPV. I have flown the Nepal props. And again, they're smooth but super low pitch, right? Are we thinking of the same one? And all these, like when I flew Mr. Steele's Kiss build, not literally Mr. Steele's Kiss build, but the Get FPV Mr. Steele build, I was super impressed with how controllable the thrust was. But then you like pop the throttle and it's just like, I'm exaggerating a little, but it just doesn't feel like there's as much there as I would like. So it's just a flight style thing. Yeah. It's always a trade-off. Yeah, you can't have it all. Any thoughts on the Tyro 109, asks Joshua McBride. Joshua, in general, the Tyro series is acceptable value for money, but very low price. So the actual quality is pretty questionable. But it's enough that if that's your price point, go for it. See what I'm getting at? It's not very good, but it's super cheap. So it might be worth getting. See what I mean? Oh, there goes UAV Tech making trouble again. Mark Spatz just cannot resist poking Pavel Spakowski. By poking him, I mean arguing in favor of science. The thing is, I like Pavel Spakowski is a good dude, and I am not interested in getting into a fight between UAV Tech and Pavel Spakowski. But I will say, I mean, Mark Spatz made his name making spreadsheets to calculate filter delay in Betaflight. I feel like Mark has a very analytical mind and is very data driven, and I respect that. And if the data doesn't support your conclusions, then I'm not a fan of it. Argue, and I've seen Mark argue, this filter is not what you think it is. And other people said, you don't know what you're talking about. And then Mark does a enormous amount of work testing and gathering data and comes back and says, here's the data. Here's a giant spreadsheet with all my numbers. And then the other people go, yeah, you don't know. You're just, fly it, feel it. So if Mark Spatz says the unicorn filter is a dynamic low pass, I feel like that's hard to... I mean, I don't know what the unicorn filter is, but I feel like he probably wouldn't say that if he didn't have the data to back it up. And I have seen other cases where people coding the filters maybe didn't 100% understand what the filter was actually doing. They wrote the code, and mathematically they knew what it should be doing, but then you actually measure the data. You can, if you have a filter, if you write the code for a filter, you can actually measure the effect of the filter on, like, let's say we have an audio example. I can play static white noise, and I know the frequency spectrum of that white noise, and I run it through the filter, and the white noise that comes out the other end has a high frequency roll off. And I can measure that. I can measure the effect of the filter, and I can quantify that. So I don't need you to tell me, here's what the code says that the filter does. I can look at the gyro data going into the filter and look at the gyro data coming out of the filter, and I can see what has happened to the data. And at that point, it doesn't matter what you say the filter should be doing. I can see what it's doing. I mean, not me, Mark Spatz. So. At that point, if you say, no, it's doing something else, it's like, well, just prove it. Show me the data. And nobody ever does it. That's the thing. Mark Spatz puts in the work, busts his ass to get data, And the data supports his conclusion. And I guarantee you, if the data did not support his conclusion, he would say it. The data supports his conclusion, and then the people who are arguing with him don't produce more data. At which point he wins the argument in my book. That's the thing. And I'm not talking about Pavel Spikowski here. I don't know anything about the Pavel Spikowski unicorn filter. I'm talking about the Betaflight situation. When Betaflight was arguing, we're doing Kalman filtering, Mark Spatz built a quadcopter, put a flight controller on it, measured the effect of the filter, and said it's just a low pass. And they did not produce any data to disagree with him. They were just like, nuh-uh. Nuh-uh. And it's like, well, look, if I have data and you have nuh-uh, I win the argument, at least in my book. So. In that way. MK, thank you for a $5 super chat. We need a loud voice here. I'm a loud voice. Betaflight needs plug-in extensions so we don't have to wait for devs and we get tons of third-party features like Ghost. Betaflight is an open source project. If there's something that you feel like it needs, feel free to write it. That's what the Betaflight devs would say. Betaflight, yeah. The thing is, if there were plugins and extensions, then who would bug check those, right? Who would bug check those? Anyway, Betaflight doesn't need plugins and extensions, and waiting for devs, the devs bust their ass for free. If you don't want to wait for devs, assuming you're a coder, you can go work on the project and donate your time, and then things will happen faster. That's the theory anyway. Isn't Emuflight using Kalman filters? I don't know. Are they? I don't know, and chances are neither do they. No offense intended. Just because in the history of FPV, every single person who thinks they're using Kalman filters, near as I can tell, isn't. Oh, we're not using Kalman filters. We're using fast Kalman filters, which basically amounts to a low pass. Man, this is the most anybody's talked about Kalman filters since, I don't know. Brian Ladmer wrote, fair enough. That's a fair point, Brian. Brian says, I respect Mark Spatz, but he really can't say anything yet because INF 2.6 hasn't even been released, so he can't have tested it. Like I said, I don't know anything about this recent tiff about the unicorn filter. Basically, all my comments in the last little rant were mostly about Betaflight and the arguments between Betaflight and Mark Spatz about the implementation of Kalman filters in Betaflight. Let's see here. I mean, a plug-in framework for Betaflight would it make it easier for people to add things? I mean, here's the thing. No, stop with this nonsense. This is total nonsense. Think about it. Do you want to write a plugin for Betaflight? You can do it right now. You can just fork the project. Write your code. Betaflight doesn't need a plugin architecture. It's open source. The only reason you need plugins is if you have closed source. So you need people to be able to write plugins that interface with your code because they can't update the code. Betaflight's open source. Open source things don't need plugins. Just fork the frickin' code repo and write your code. The lack of plugins, no one is waiting for devs. No one's waiting for devs. Now, I will say this. If Betaflight had plugins, like this feature where instead of the pilot name, you get the warning element that the Betaflight devs will have declined to include. if someone could write a plugin that made that happen, then people could have features that the Betaflight devs refuse to merge. You could write a plugin to get rid of VTX tables. Betaflight devs will never do that. But the Betaflight devs have limited time, and they're not, I see no indication that they are interested in writing a plugin interface. Yeah, that's true. I talked myself around to disagreeing with myself, because anybody who could write a plugin can just fork Betaflight and write their own write their own code. But the ability to do plugins would make it available within the main project, especially for features that Betaflight devs refuse to include. That's interesting. I still don't think it's going to happen, though. It's Blunty says UAV Tech tested the Emuflight Kalman filters and said it's a first order low pass filter just like the PT-1. Yeah, because the Emuflight Kalman filters are based on the IMUF code, which came from Betaflight and Heliospring. It's the same freaking code. I mean, maybe it isn't. I guess that it is. I don't think they've changed it, but I could be wrong. Us and FPV wants to know if there's a time frame for my review of the Tango 2 V3 PCB and the TBS multi-protocol module. It depends on TBS's time frame. I'm going to schedule that review for whenever it's available. So 2 weeks. That's a joke. Is PID tuning mandatory after building, or is it possible to skip that part? Alvaro Sanchez. Alvaro, I got a dirty little secret to confess. Most of the quads on that wall behind me are on default PIDs, because I got too much to do to spend time tweaking the PIDs on every single one of these freaking quads. Now, if there are quads that I care about getting good results from, then I PID tune them. But most of the time I fly on default PIDs and don't worry about it. So it's not mandatory at all. Thank you, John Larson, for $5. That was an interesting rant. Glad you liked it. The Emu devs are awesome. The Emu devs, Kevin Glazier, I think his heart's in absolutely the right place. And anybody who sits down and puts the time in to do the work to implement these features totally deserves our respect and our thanks. That doesn't change whether or not the code is implementing a Kalman filter or not. So maybe Emuflight will have plugins. Yeah, maybe so. Emuflight has done some things that Betaflight didn't want to do. That's kind of where Betaflight started. Betaflight started around the Kalman filter. The Betaflight devs decided that the Kalman filter was not a good thing to include. I recall them concluding that it just wasn't effective and it wasn't better than a low pass. And the Betaflight devs felt strongly that it was, and they forked. And then Betaflight, then Heliospring, now Emuflight. The gist of those is we'll do things that the Betaflight devs don't want to do. Change Agent says Betaflight would be better if modular. You could add and remove modules to the flash memory limit, like removing modules to make Betaflight F4 work on F3 by removing modules. I mean, yes, but who's going to do the work to make it modular? Right now, Betaflight is somewhat modular. You can use the pound define, the compiler defines, just pound define. I don't know what's the generic name for those. You can easily remove things if you know how to compile Betaflight. Most people don't know how to compile it. What would be really cool would be similar to the way OpenTX works, where when you download it, it is compiled for you on the fly with the options you want. What would be really cool would be a front end that compiles Betaflight for you with the options you do or don't want and gives you a hex file that you can flash. That would be slick. That would be something that would be pretty, because that would not require a restructuring of Betaflight. That would be kind of cool. that already exists. It's just most people can't compile. FPB in the Discord asks, I bought the Success DF7. I wired it up with an analog camera and VTX. I only get OSD and a gray background. Does the flight controller support analog video? How did you wire it up, FPB? That's the question. How did you wire it up? Let's just look at the pinout of this board, because we should be able to answer the question pretty easily. Ah, phooey, I screwed up my desktop. Success DF7 Twin G. Either it has a camera input or it doesn't. Wait, no, you've got OSD. You get OSD in a gray background. That must mean it supports analog. Let's just double check. How are you getting OSD? Where did you connect the VTX? Yeah, okay, it does. It supports analog. Yeah, FPB, it totally supports analog. And here is the wiring diagram for how to do it. Ooh, it's a little bigger than I had hoped. Ha ha! That's what she said. Yeah, here's how you wire up the video. And here's how you wire up the camera. And at that point, you should have image. So you just need to make sure that the camera is powered up. Maybe try a different camera. P4SH4 says, what is a Kalman filter even supposed to do? Oh, haha, is your lens cover on? What is a Kalman filter even supposed to do? Filtering basically lets the flight controller focus on the movement of the quad instead of the vibration of the motors. That's the answer. And Kalman filters could do a better job of that with less latency and more effective filtering. That's the short answer. ASOC, going back to the question about Crossfire and model match. Crossfire model match with external modules is in the TBS OpenTX nightly builds available from the Crossfire product page, but still not in OpenTX. So, Nick Howe wants to know recommendations for DJI antennas for better range. There are a lot out there. I will say I have a review of the Luminaire Axie HD. It's actually recorded, and I'm just waiting for it to come back into stock because people get super mad when they see a review and then something's out of stock. But I'm waiting for it to be back in stock. The Luminaire Axie HD, it's not like ZOMG ultra long range. It's like, it's noticeably better than the stock antennas, but not like, oh God, I'm going 12 miles. Good. But the form factor is so good. The way it just fits on the front of the goggles is so freaking nice. You can just stuff them right in your bag. So this is the one that I've got on my goggles right now. If you're trying to go really long range, you're going to want to get something a little higher gain, but John Davis, thanks for a $5 super chat. Is it safe to run batteries in parallel? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just the standard precaution applies. They have to be at the same voltage when they're plugged in together. Change Agent asks, do we know when A Day at the Range is releasing this vaporware DJI firmware? I have bad news for you, Change Agent. So in case you're not caught up on my live stream drama, A Day at the Range is a user who claimed to have a custom firmware that enabled the ability to output HDMI from the DJI goggles. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's not as good as you're thinking. The way it worked is it read from the SD card as it was writing to the SD card. So it was a hardware and firmware combination. And he said that he would be sharing it. And some people were skeptical that it even existed. And then in a later live stream, he said DJI contacted him and was very unhappy that he had done this. And in a later live stream, he said that DJI had paid him to never release it to the public. So it could have been. I mean, I don't think he's trolling, personally, but he could have been trolling. The thing is, he's left so many super chats. He's left like $50 in super chats in one stream, which, if you're trolling, that's a hell of an expensive troll. Like, why would you do that? You could just troll for free. Anyway, who knows? Who knows? Who knows? We don't know. But it's not coming. Dustin Lewis asks, why are all your live streams during NFL games? I don't know if you could tell, but I'm not that into sports. Sean K says, DJI isn't paying anyone except some lawyers to bury you. The thing is, Sean K, what he was doing, I don't think it's illegal. There's nothing he's doing that's illegal. Flashing custom firmware on it, not illegal. So, paying him off probably was the smart move. T. Simon, I kind of agree. T. Simon in the Discord says the idea of reading the SD card I/O port is too clever to be a troll. That's it. That's the thing. That was the thing that made me believe him at the end. I didn't not believe him, but that's such a good idea. If you were just trolling, you wouldn't bother coming up with an idea that plausible and clever. You see what I mean? You would just, if you wanted to troll, you'd say, I got custom firmware and it enables HDMI out over USB-C. All you got to do is put this on your SD card and plug in USB-C and you got HDMI out. Ha! That's what you would say to troll, right? You wouldn't say, there's this weird firmware, but nobody wants it and you got to solder this thing on, etc. So that's why I think he's legit and not a troll. A troll would have made the story more enticing. Or maybe he's just a really good troll. MK says MP4 cannot be read without it being closed. Yep, I am aware of that. I don't know what the answer is. But suffice it. Here's the thing, MK. He said, I've got HDMI out from the DJI goggles. And people went, yeah, right. How would you do that? And he said, well, actually, the first thing he said was, I extended the range limit on the DJI goggles. And people said, yeah, right. How would you do that? And he's like, well, I made custom firmware. And people were like, you can't put custom firmware on DJI goggles. And he was like, yeah, you can. Here's how I did it. And I'm like, oh. He's like, yeah, I also got HDMI out. And people were like, you can't do that. And he's like, yeah, I did it. Here's how. So now you're saying you can't read MP4s without closing the file. And I'm like, well, I mean, I sure don't know how you could do it, but maybe he figured it out. Maybe he figured it out. I do. Steven Senzia wants to know if I register my FPV drones. Do I register my FPV drones? Oh, I can't put this up on stream because you'll see all my numbers. Can I? Can you see the numbers? You can't see the numbers. All right, let me make sure you can't see the numbers. Yeah, okay. Sure enough. I register them all, man. Everything over 250 grams, I register them all. Absolutely. Because if anybody is going to get, if anybody's going to get dinged for not registering his drone, isn't it going to be me? So. Christopher Brucey, if you are a non-commercial operator, you can put the same code on all your quads. If you're a 107, you have to register each quad individually. Oh, it's Blunty says he has a custom firmware. He can write whatever file type he wants. Good point. Maybe he's not writing MP4 to the SD card. Maybe he's writing a different codec. Very interesting. 507RC, you don't need to register tiny whoops. They're below 250 grams. How important are skid plates for bottom-mounted lipos? Asks Nor Orion. I don't run bottom-mounted lipos very much, so you should take it with a grain of salt. I usually don't run skid plates on them, and I often destroy the lipos, so maybe I should run skid plates. But I don't run bottom mount very often, so it doesn't really come up very much. I do have a ham license, Dauntless Age. Sully says I'm out of focus. Am I? I can't be out of focus, can I? Where's my... I don't think I'm out of focus. Oh, DTFPV, you're right. Oh, am I out of focus? How about that? Oh, that's bad. Let's get me back in focus. There we go. Well, I don't know how I'm going to write my registration number on my tiny whoop. Eric Mangus, thank you for a $2 super chat. Did A Day at the Range show you a video of the mod? He did not. He did not. I have not seen any proof. What's your shirt? 661FPV wants to know what's my shirt. This came in quad box. It's a really great shirt. It's a really great shirt. It's available store.rotoriot.com after the quad box exclusivity window comes out. Christopher Brucey wants to know if I have merch. Christopher, I do have a Teespring store. You can get at it from the shelf at the bottom of all my YouTube videos. Mike's Camping in FPV says my registration numbers are on my battery straps. That doesn't work for 107 operators because each quad needs a unique identifier. Let's see. We are getting close to the end of the stream. It is 10 minutes till 10 p.m. where I am. The stream will be ending at 10 p.m. Oh, wow. Yeah, look at me. Wow, how did I get out of focus? I never touched this camera. How many videos have I recorded out of focus? Watch for them on the channel. 10 minutes till 10. After I go off the air at 10 p.m., Aaron Ciotti is going to be going on his channel. Ciotti, start posting that link, my friend. Rstang50 says TBS Nano RX binding issue. Lost bind and green light blinking fast. Need help. Rstang, the fast blinking is, I think, bootloader mode. You need to do this. You need to do this. Oh my god. The TBS Crossfire emergency update will save you. How does DJI even know what A Day at the Range's name is? I've never said it publicly. I mean, you could get a hold of him through his YouTube channel or his Google account, just like anybody can. It's when you blurred your numbers that it happened. No, I didn't blur my numbers. I didn't blur anything. That emergency update will fix your fast blinking Crossfire receiver. Argle Bargle says, I'm at a loss. 2 VTX, 2 cameras, and still black and white. But color in... I think it's the EV200 is the common link, my friend. Maybe the flight controller? Not impossible. The flight controller does mess with the luminance signal. Do this, Argle Bargle. Connect the camera directly to the video transmitter. Take the flight controller out of the loop. Connect the video wires between the camera and the VTX. See if that fixes it. Sean K, thank you for a $5 super chat. Should I run 4S on a 6S build or just limit the throttle to tone it down? That one. Run 6S on a 6S build with a throttle cap, with a throttle limit, and then you won't have to buy new batteries anytime soon. A-Lab wants to know 51433 props or 51477. Depends on your motor, depends on your all-up weight, and depends on your flight style. Best answer ever. I would not think an NTSC PAL mismatch would do this. It's possible, but usually an NTSC PAL mismatch is a lot more than just black and white, but it's possible. Joshua McBride wants to know, why do I have to reset my VTX channel every time I unplug my LiPo? Joshua, this has to be a problem with smart audio. Your flight controller is setting your VTX to a different channel or something. One thing that can get you wrong is when you, in Betaflight, you set the channel and then you have to save and exit. If you only set but don't save and exit, it won't remember it when you reboot. Ben Thornton, thank you for a $5 super chat. Thanks for the great stream tonight. Cyclimbo, thank you for a $5 super chat. I had the black and white issue with my EV200D, had to switch from NTSC PAL to auto. Worth a try. I mean, just NTSC PAL usually causes the screen to roll, but it's possible. We can't, hard to rule out anything else. Try changing the NTSC PAL switch to auto. Worth a try. Thank you, Eric Mangus, for $2 super chat. Some Fat Shark Hush money. There's Ciati. Ciati's posting his link to his... That's not a link, Ciati. Where's the actual link, dude? How come we never see you on Ciati's stream? Because as soon as my stream's over, I go to the bathroom and I go put my kid to bed. Ask my son if I can stay on Ciati's stream. He says no. How much room for DJI Air unit for cooling? I mean, Bill, I don't think you need any particular amount of room. On a typical 5-inch build, as long as the sides are clear, it seems to be okay. Yeah. Coelho FPV, thanks for $5 in the super chat. Just tuned in. Good evening. How's the super chat been tonight? Wow. I thought it was more. Boy, it felt like the super chat was like going like gangbusters earlier. That's not bad. It's not bad. Ciati. Oh my God. Ciati. Here's what you need to do. Look, Ciati, look right here. Welcome to the new live studio, Ciati. You'll get used to it. It's okay. Right here. Share. Boom. There's your link. Okay? That's what you need. That's where you need to get the link. Which one of your t-shirts are cotton? I think all of them are. I mean, I don't know if they're 100%. Are any t-shirts 100% cotton? John H. wants to know what's happening to Liftoff. Liftoff, what's happening to Liftoff? They released their new version, then there were some bugs with it, and they pulled it back. And have they re-released it yet? I don't know if they have. Ciati, you'll get used to it. It's okay. The other thing, Ciati, that you're going to wish you had? No. Look, Ciati, watch right here. Little tip for you. The other thing you're going to wish you had is, where do you create a new live stream using the settings from an old live stream? Remember that? Do you use that? I don't know if you use that. What you do is this. You go create, go live, and it'll create a new live stream. Then you hit schedule stream. And then when you do that, then you can reuse the settings from your old live stream. It took me forever to find that after they moved it. There you go. There it is. There's the link. to Ciati's stream. 4 minutes till the end of my stream, though. I still own your attention until 4 minutes from now. Argle Bargle set video to auto in the goggles. Did it work? Did that fix it? Sean says, I'm looking at finally getting a quad after wanting one for probably 8 years. Is a FreeSky X9D Plus 2019 SE worth it? Should I look at something cheaper? Many people these days are going away from FreeSky because the firmware on the receivers is kind of a pain in the ass to sort out. If you're starting from scratch with an access-capable radio and only access receivers, then you could do okay. But guess what? FreeSky isn't selling any 2.4 gig receivers with access firmware already installed, as far as I know. Anybody catch me up in the comments if I'm wrong about that. So the minute you buy the receiver, you're going to have to flash it. Oh, but which firmware do you flash it with? Bleh! So I would steer you toward the Radio Master TX16S. But the FreeSkys are good. Underdog FPV says the Archer M Plus comes with access firmware already on it. Well, there you go. There's the first one. The Archer receivers are access. Well, what's an Archer receiver? Should probably learn that. Archer M Plus. How's that compared to the good old RXSR? Oh my god, I stole my chat again. Tiny form factor, access protocol, smart port, F port. It doesn't look like it's full range. Oh, it's not diversity. Yeah, okay. Yeah. It's cute. Thank you, Jeffrey Brooks, for a $25 super chat. Very, very generous. Thank you so much. Oh, Doom FPV finally made it to a live stream. I have bad news for you. The live stream is ending. What's a good upgraded antenna for the air unit? Asks James O'Donnell. The Luminaire Axie is pretty solid. The thing is, I think you get a lot more bang for your buck by upgrading the antennas on the goggles. Because if you have to put $20 or $30, depending on which antenna you buy, into all of your quads, that adds up. But if you put upgraded antennas on the goggles, it works with all the quads. See? So that's the direction I would go. Should I buy the FreeSky XM receiver with the JB Xylo build, or just spend the money now on Crossfire and buy a Crossfire receiver? Crossfire. You will not be disappointed. If you can afford it. Crossfire is like $30 for a receiver instead of $20 for an RXSR. If you can swing that, it's so much better. Just do it. Chiba says your website suggests the Acroby light for indoor flight. Is there a brushless tiny whoop I could get instead? Chiba, get the Newbie Drone Hummingbird Pro. It's like $80. The Archer RS is the equivalent. So what the frick is an Archer? And is that just their name for the access receivers? I'm going to overrun my time. Did they just name them something different? Why'd they make a whole new receiver? God, so annoying. Hey, did you like the RXSR? Oh, wow. It's got over-the-air update. Okay, I am actually slightly impressed. But the RXSR was supposed to get over-the-air updates. They said, hey, guys, Access is coming out. You know what it's going to have? Faster latency and over-the-air updates. And then nothing got over-the-air updates until you bought new hardware. So now, yay, over-the-air updates with the Access. Great. Okay, so if you buy the X9D 2019 and the Archer R receiver, then finally you will not have to do a bunch of BS to get FreeSky working. Yay. But I think you should just get Crossfire instead. Thank you, A Day at the Range. Woo, A Day at the Range, still here. $10 super chat. The only way I use FreeSky is with 4-watt amplifiers. Oh, that's a great comment to go out on. Thank you so much to everybody who came out. Thank you to my patrons in the Discord. Thank you to you guys in the chat. Thank you to everybody who left a super chat. And I am going to get out of here and let Ciati do his business because I'm running over. Happy flying, everybody. I will see you all throughout the week on my channel and next Sunday, 1 p.m. for my next live stream. Happy flying, you guys. Good night.